Welcome, everyone, to what could be the last episode of the Housecoat podcasting, mainly because this is the last topic I could think of for this is the last topic I could think of for our lists. I mean, on the one hand, we could possibly go back and cover to STO and cover some of the ships that have been deployed since our last video, or we could do game review. I do reviews of game franchises, but if we're continuing it, it'll probably be if we continue, it'll probably be Ron's choice on topics. Anyway, today's topic is Mecha. As in
Mechs, giant freaking robots, the whole shit, kit and caboodle.
Yep.
Watch out! You've got some aerial enemies now.
And in order to help demonstrate this to a certain extent, we have Ron here playing Trench.
Or Iron Brigade, as it's officially called these days, but yeah.
Die!
Right.
Oh, no, perfect, Ron.
As for why I'm playing Trenched instead of anything else. One,
Attacks on them. Ready to get back out there? Good. It's time to get into the meat of it.
nonsensical.
We get it, you hate Mecha. You don't have to rub it in our faces, Ron.
Right. Right.
Oh god. That was an A and not a...
Right. Right.
I haven't played this game in 2 years.
Yeah. Anyway.
Ready to get back out there?
He has
Good.
another mecha game in his library, but he's put that in his hidden folder. Anyway, the common mecha are, well, it's a broad catch-all term for giant robots. The proper term is more humongous mecha, because these things are huge, but most people just call them mecha. And there's a few variants. The genre can be split into 2 types: real robot and super robot.
Real Robot is essentially a genre of where they try to be as realistic with how warfare would be with mecha and how it would like operate and whatnot. And like some good examples of this would be, of course, the Battletech franchise, as well as, of course, the Mobile Suit Gundam series as well.
Yes. Super robots, meanwhile,
They throw everything, they just throw all that away, they just say go with the ghoul of cool.
Call that one Artie.
Yeah.
Heavy artillery cannon. But
So in one series, you'll have people using self-propelled guns, like being very military tactical, while in Super Robots, you get people with samurai swords slicing other giant robots in half, and the whole kit and caboodle, that sort of manner.
yeah.
This is why we love it so much, well, most of us at least.
Yeah. And it's mostly more an anime thing
This
than
looks
a
like the time to set up our defenses.
than a gaming thing, but there are giant robot games, Gundam games for a lot of it. And Super Robot Wars is one of the biggest mecha games because, well, it's a mega crossover. It's a mega crossover of a bunch. It's a mega crossover of a bunch of different mecha anime and such.
Yeah, like the series like Pat Labor, Macross, let's see what else is there.
And
Code
for su-
Geass.
Yeah, Code Geass is another one of the real robots. And for super robots, you can have the likes of Mazinger Z fighting alongside Gao Gar.
Die, tube!
And that's sort of the standard fare of super robots. Real robots, the machines will have standard weapons like machine guns, rifles,
Why don't they just give up?
missiles. Super robots, you can have things. Super robots have all sorts of different things. They can transform. You've got
soldier. You gotta send us the scrap.
you can combine. You've got combining robots, and of course, sometimes the weapons include
Die, tube!
launching parts of the robot itself at enemies.
Like
Rocket
for example, giant drills that may pierce the heavens.
Good.
Ah yes, Kira Naga.
Okay. This looks like the time to set up our defenses.
We're mentioning because it's a mecha. Shut up.
Yeah. And the original Humongous Mecha show was Mazinger Z back in the 70s.
Look up! Those vault droppers are capable bombers.
Such as I said, Rocket Punch!
Yeah, as you can see, not all of us are enthusiastic about this topic of others.
Ah!
Yeah.
But yeah, like personally, I've always been more of a fan of the real robots. Here's why. When it comes to Gundam, which sort of like Gundam has a habit of like blurring the lines between real robots and super robots. Because on one hand, you got like the very super powered mobile suits that do like god tier things, like for example, like just like making entire asteroids and space colonies move by just pushing them around by using psychic powers. And then you also, in the same franchise, have very realistic and grounded combat, like in EOA MS Team, which is very like one of the gold standards when it comes to real robot combat. Though Gundam Gundam anime aren't the only one who touch on this, as a very popular video game came out that sort of demonstrates excuse me.
Careful!
It demonstrates real robot combat, and that would be the Iron Harvest game, which is essentially what would happen if Nikolai Tesla gave the world powers before World War I giant mech technology.
Yeah.
Die, tube!
I recently managed to get my hands on it. It's awesome.
And then, of course, there's
Taking fire.
there's another mecha game that I know of that I haven't played all that much of, I will admit, is Sakura Wars. So that's also more a dating sim. I'm not sure if that's real robot or super robot,
right.
but
That's the
I'd
last
say
of
it's
them.
somewhere in between, like Gundam.
yeah.
Can we get a sniper turret, please, sir?
Yeah. And, yeah. It's, they're all very interesting, and Battletech is probably another one of the more real robot types.
Battletech is probably like the one that's most internationally recognized and overall, because you got like there's pretty much a mech for everyone in that series, basically.
Yeah.
And there's all different factions, so you can always find like which faction matches you, whether you want to be a sword swinging samurai, or you want to be a communist, or anything. You would be pretty much anything you want in that game, basically.
Yeah.
It's good for role-playing games, good for tactical games, like you like to scratch your Warhammer itch. GW's being complete assholes about it, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah. And
Alright.
I will admit, I have seen quite a few crossovers crossover fanfiction involving BattleTech and Gundam.
So I would like to go ahead and address the elephant in the room here, because as Ron has made it abundantly clear, he hates Mecha. He hates it with a passion.
Just in time.
Partly because he finds it utterly nonsensical because, well, these things...
Material science.
Yeah.
Ron is of the belief that there's no such thing as realistic mecha, and yada yada yada. However, here's the thing that I think that he doesn't really consider. No one wants realistic and wants realism in their entertainment. What they want is it to be convincing. That's what they want it. They don't care about the realism as long as it explains in the world how things function, or if it's not really that much of a focus, and you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to just make a big deal out of it. If you like Mecha, you could just watch it and just enjoy it. And hey, maybe if it's one of those convincing things like BattleTech, you'll have the explanation as to why certain technologies work. But ultimately, everyone's free to play what they want.
Taste this!
Yeah. So, willing suspension of disbelief. Some people have a higher threshold of it than others. Ron has one of the lowest.
More like non-existent. Despite the fact that he likes Star Trek, which, well, that's a
Why don't they just give up?
Request 1 machine gun emplacement, sir.
Well,
Meanwhile, me looking at the engineering side of things go, they're a maintenance hall. It's far
Here they
better
come.
than either. Just build it.
I'm not the... Bourne is the one who thinks they're the future of warfare. I'm just the guy who likes to watch the action.
If you guys aren't willing to think outside the box, but time will tell.
Well, I don't care either way if they're the future of warfare or not. Again, I just like seeing the mechs in action. And they can...
I think I've got a hydraulic leak.
Seriously, they can be kinda fun. Especially Gundam with all of its different calendars and different techs available. And the different technologies in each timeline.
Not sure how much longer we can pull together.
That's one of the things that sets Gundam apart, because it has so many different timelines and so many different options for your technology. You've got the Universal Century, which has Minovsky particle physics and supernatural phenomena in the form of new types.
And then on the other side, you got Future Century with Domon Kashu, and basically what is essentially Dragon Ball Z with giant mecha.
Yeah, and then there's then there's the
After Colony for Gundam Wing.
Yeah, after
When
Colony.
it's all political about about revolutions and all that.
Yeah,
And very poorly written romance.
Yeah, Gundam Wing's main thing is, well, Gundam Wing, it starts out as like a standard colonies versus Earth thing, but it does it in more guerrilla warfare style. But then eventually it delves into machine warfare with the I'm not just talking like armors like tanks or mechs. I'm talking mobile dolls.
Nice work, Marie.
And start getting into that, and they have this whole spiel about like, oh, how war is so terrible. We shouldn't be using giant mechs in battle because they're so destructive. And like, I'm sorry, but like that's like the stupidest thing in Gundam Wing in my opinion. It's like
setting up the war to end all wars kind of thing. And
As it's like, only this time we meet it. Except then the Mars Century calendar started going around, and that sort of disproved that whole notion. So, oopsie.
yeah, and the main major tech thing, well, apart from the mobile suits themselves, the main technological gimmick of Gundam Wing was Gundanium alloy, something that could only be forged in true zero-G, and that zero, and basically a super metal that is impervious to just about anything.
Taking damage.
And then there's the
All right.
yeah,
That's the last.
and
of
then there's the Cosmic Era, which was an attempt to reboot. It was basically a reboot of the Gundam franchise in the early 2000s, and they did it by taking a sort of Star Trek-y approach to it. Instead of just being Earthnoids versus Spacenoids, the Space Colony faction side was made of, used genetically engineered coordinators. It sort of like Star Trek augments. And main technological gimmick for the Gundams of that series was phase shift armor, something that rendered them impervious to physical strikes.
Not physical, just more kinetic, like bullets.
Yeah. Bullets and swords. Physical
Bullets,
swords.
missiles, and swords, but energy weapons, not so much.
Yeah, energy weapons could... energy weapons it could with... energy weapons did phase shift did jack shit against physical... against energy weapons.
And overall, like, the Gundam Seed is like probably like one of my... It was honestly like the first Gundam series I ever watched from beginning to end, honestly. And it really helped like paint my opinions on like the Gundam franchise as a whole for the most part.
Yeah.
Granted, the writing of Gundam Seed Destiny could have been better.
Yes. That's what fanfiction is for, though. It's to fix.
Indeed.
Anyway, after that came...
Not really budget cuts, just so much political interior drama.
Yeah.
Because apparently, like, from what I understand, there's some drama going on with so many actors and actresses and the writing stuff. But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah. After that came Gundam 00.
In other words, Gundam Wing, but slightly better.
Yes, Gundam Wing, but slightly better. And instead of the Gundam material being armor, it was their power source. The GN
particles made by anime Lenin.
Yeah.
You tell me he doesn't look like fucking Lenin. That Aelia Shepard looks like he's fucking Lenin, and he's basically preaching communism in that series, I swear.
Yeah. And innovation and innovators in that series are about the closest Gundam has come. Are about the closest an alternate Gundam timeline has come to the space magic levels of Universal Century new types. Oh,
and it's also
wait,
so
no,
far
Down here, sir.
wait, there's one. Oh, wait, it's not the only one. It's not the closest. That's Gundam Age and their X-Rounders.
It earns prestigious title being the first Gundam series to feature Alien.
Hey, Gundam 00, yeah. In the movie. Yes, Gundam 00 had a movie. Most Gundam shows most Gundam timelines are lucky if they just have shows and maybe a manga or game. If they have a movie, that's really special. And the Universal Centuries. The Universal Century was the big one with that. They had the Char's Counterattack movie and then F-91. And then there was after that, no timeline afterwards had a movie until 00 gave us Awakening of the Trailblazer, which, as George said, gave us Aliens. Anyway,
the aliens themselves were also communists.
yeah. Anyway, next up, as I said, is Gundam Age. Or, as I call it, or as I sometimes call it, based on the, well, there are two key gimmicks to Gundam Age, which, depending on, which caused me to give it different nicknames depending on which gimmick is coming up, is the main one being featured. Gundam Agarest is one nickname based on the video game Record of Agarest War, because
No need to do it on your own.
like
Use some of that scrap.
Agarest, the Age was a multi-generational story. 3 different generations of characters. And
all those experiencing the horrors of war crimes.
yeah. And the other nickname is Gundam Nadeshiko, as after another series which had a similar
Do you need anything?
conceit to its enemies. Martian successor Nadeshiko.
Here come some resistors. Right over there.
You see, with Gundam,
No.
we originally, with Gundam Age, we thought, the original thought was that its bad guys were aliens coming from coming from outside the Earth sphere, the unknown enemy, or UE. As it turns out, they were actually humans from a failed colonization attempt of Mars.
We're taking fire.
Just like Martian successor Nadeshiko. Jovian lizards were apparently human convicts sent off to Jupiter like it was some kind of penal colony.
Time to pick up some scrap.
Yeah, Gundam Age is a weird one, but then
Not sure how much
after
longer
Gundam
she
Age,
can
we
hold
have the one Gundam show that Ron actually likes.
Mobile Suit Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans.
And why is the one that Ron likes? Because the only one that has a protagonist is a fucking psychopath. Just like him!
And I think I've got a hydraulic leak.
Yeah.
But in all seriously though, the whole thing about Iron Blood Orphans is all about like war orphans, and they can like connect themselves to their machine with like implants, and the main characters is kind of like shared between 2 different characters. That
There goes a turret.
you got the one who's like the overall leader, who's trying to make sure that their little mercenary outfit survives and like kills fans. Then you got the main Gundam pilot, who's basically an emotionless psychopath who will just straight up murder people if his brother tells him
Took
to.
out a turret.
Hell, he'll just
Yeah.
do it even if he doesn't say so. He just kills people.
Turret
Yeah.
As simple as that.
Yeah. Mikazuki, yeah. Mikazuki is one of the guys who just focuses on. Most of the times in a Gundam show, you might have
Okay.
the protagonist
Looks like the time
talking
to set up our
about
defenses.
war and trying to get his enemies to stop or something. At least in later parts of the season. But Mecha doesn't do that. He just goes straight
Here come
in.
some resistors. Right
And
over there.
His Gundam, the Gundam Barbatos, is also the most brutal. Because, well, most Gundams have have a rifle and swords, usually energy versions, beam rifle and beam sabers and such.
Not in this one. This one just has fucking claws.
And
AKA a mace.
We're taking damage.
yeah, the Barbatos has claws, a giant mace, though the Barbatos Lupus can have a sword mace, which is just like a really big sword. And it also, and its final form, yeah, the Lupus Rex, its final form has a remote control tail.
In other words,
What, are you gonna
he
sniper
doesn't
turret,
want to
please,
shoot
sir?
you. He's going to bludgeon and rip and tear you like you're a demon in front of Doomslayer.
Yes.
Here come some resistors. Right over there.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. Anyway, after that came Mobile Suit Gundam Witch from Mercury, which...
The best one so far, in my honest opinion.
and in
Which takes,
Ron's...
which takes a step away from like the general, like general warfare aspect, and is actually approaching the corporate side of the military-industrial complex.
Yes.
And how the technologies have been used to promote warfare, and how all the politics between all these different corporations mingle, and of course, like the one, like not a really big deal, but like an interesting little sub issue is that it's the first Gundam series where the main protag is a woman.
Yeah.
And a very cute and extremely cute girl who we all love and adore. Just don't let her slap you.
Yeah.
Really don't let her slap you. You'll regret it. You turn into a ketchup stain.
I got a gun. too.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Of course, while we're all talking about that, we may as well also talk about the only other time that aliens have technically been in Gundam in the
Nice.
Build Diver series and the Build Fighters,
yes, those.
which is essentially these shows are with any franchise that involves military hardware, be it fictional or otherwise. There are model kits made, and Gundam is no exception, as they have a very large series of little model kits called Gunpla kits, which I own several of.
Gundam plastic models, or Gundam Pla model, or just Gunpla.
Where do these beautiful creatures come from? Oh yeah, I make them to destroy you.
And, but basically the whole Build Fighters, basically they took these model kits, only they took these kits and they gave it the Yu-Gi-Oh treatment, where you take these kits and you just turn them on and you just build them, put them in a arena, and you fight with them. And it is honestly fucking hilarious, and I love it.
Yeah, it is kind of funny. And then there's Build Divers,
Which takes that whole concept again
and goes Sword Art Online with it.
Welcome.
Or Log Horizon, if you like
This
something
is
a bit more
it. We
classy.
made it to Glad's Martian Fortress.
Yes.
Check it out. Let's end this nightmare.
And it is just an absolute joy watching it, because
Glad. Once
it
again,
also
you've
it's
gone
also
too
great
far.
for furry bait in
Your
the second
cause.
season
The
of Divers, at
home is
least.
destroyed. The lives
Yeah.
taken. It all ends now.
Not
Yeah.
without the fight is won.
And then there's
What's your reasoning with him? Take him out.
We're taking fire.
right.
I don't see why.
It is pure nonsense, and it does not
Right.
Troops powering up those towers.
And then and every mecha series, real or super, has some kind of gimmick, be it a rare material used as a power source, or something supernatural for the pilots, or both. And the Super and we've already talked about some of the gimmicks with Gundam.
This is not good.
In Code Geass, there's two gimmicks. One more material and one more supernatural. The supernatural gimmick is Geass, or the power of the king, which manifests differently based on its wielder. The protagonist gets the power of absolute obedience, meaning he commands, you obey.
Need a machine gun down here, sir.
Of course, he only can use it once per person.
He can.
And
Die,
materials-wise, they have something called Sakuradite, which is a really potent energy source. So potent that most of the nightmare frames, or the name for Mecha in that series, run on the stuff. And
We're taking fire.
like Code Geass is a very fun. Like Code Geass is another one of those interesting things. And then of course, Super Robot Wars, as I've mentioned, is a mega crossover series talking.
Vision, Frank. It's a universe united and strengthened by a common order. All I have done is to make sure that I am the one giving the orders.
Right.
Whatever
Hey.
kind of warp signal Glenn is trying to send,
Anyway, with Super Robot Wars, it's a mega crossover with all sorts of different mecha shows. And really big one, and the most recent one, Super Robot Wars 30, and actually some of the previous ones as well, have actually started including mecha shows that are actual magic. Such as, a really old, one of the main ones in Super Robot Wars 30 and Super Robot Wars T is a fairly older one that, as I said, Magic Knight Rayearth. And, I haven't seen the show, but I know of Rayearth thanks to a crossover fanfic that I've read and helped with on occasion, and I find it kinda interesting. And of course, for Super Robot Wars, Gundam is one of the major staples of Super Robot Wars. You'll always see at least one Gundam series. Sometimes multiple. The most common one you'll find is Universal Century, but they have had other Gundams. Let's see. Oh, yeah, Gao Gaigar. I've mentioned that before. Gao Gaigar is a Super Robot 1. You've got a guy who's turned into a cyborg who can combine with a giant robot lion and then to form a robotic warrior. And then that warrior can combine with a drill tank, a stealth bomber, and a bullet train to form an even bigger wreck. And that's just the original form of the thing. And of course, the main focus on that, the main focus of Gao Gaigar is the G Stone, or G Stone, or G Crystal, or whatever. but basically that harnesses the power of emotions, specifically bravery. One thing that I've heard, one phrase, Galgaigar could basically be summed up as, with courage, even 1%, even 0% odds can become 100%. And I will admit, it is hilarious, and I love it. It is hilarious and awesome, and I love it. How about you, Jorn? Anything else that you haven't mentioned yet?
Nothing that immediately comes to mind, no.
Right. Oh, another one that I've heard of that's also on the mystical side of things. Escaflowne. That's another one of the older ones.
Like I said, it doesn't pretend to make sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Only if you want to be lazy about it.
Anyway.
Start thinking about
So what? So you're
It stops making sense when you overthink about it.
yeah. So anyway, I think that's about all we have to talk about. So yeah, unless I say yeah. I suppose
We'll probably have some other topic in the future, but we need to think of one first.
yeah, either that or Ron starts coming up with the topics. Anyway, that is the last topic that I've come up with. So until Ron sets up our next topic, that is the end of this video and the end of and possibly the end of Housecoat podcasting. Well, the hiatus of Housecoat podcasting until Ron starts coming up with topics.